What's up, everybody? Today we're talking the death of 15-year-old Jordan Edwards, and Hilary Clinton reveals why she did not win the presidential election. All that and more on Black Hollywood Lives this week.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Live this week.
Can you hear me? Let me the fuck out of here! Can you hear me?
And I try not to hate the meek who turn a blind eye to the lives lost at the cost of white supremacy pride.
Let me out of here!
That perversion of hate, these American disgraces. The other day, I saw my 5 and my 8-year-olds trying to scrub the brown off their faces. The hate crimes, the symbols, the bullying that they're facing. Go back to your country. We hate you niggers, spick faces.
They put blackface on children they painted as thugs. They're still building more prisons for profit. His pencils write poetry that sounds like his dead brother screams.
My eyes open wide, I feel blind, you can't see me. I open my mouth and I scream, you can't hear me. Fight for justice, can't trust this, my heart, I stand with you. You cry out, my tongue, and I swear you can't hear me.
Hey everybody, welcome to Black Hollywood Lives this week. I am your host, Derrial Christon. Joining me today is Courtney Stewart.
What's up, everybody?
DJ Jesse J.
What's up?
And our very special guest is actor, producer, director David Bianchi in the house.
Hey, guys.
And you were just witnessing his new film, his new project, You Can't Hear Me, which is unbelievable, man. I mean, I was so motivated and just empowered when I saw it. And you guys saw a clip of that and it actually released. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, released yesterday. It was distributed by the Huffington Post and the Black Voices division of the Huffington Post. Really grateful for that opportunity. And it's a new art form that I've dubbed spinning cinema through spoken word. A lot of people in my fan base know that I'm a poet. And so I meld both of my, most endeared art forms, which is true cinematic experience and spoken word. So I'm creating experimental narratives, basically films that are told entirely in poetry. So this particular one called You Can't Hear Me is starring me, Mr. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who is y'all know Malcolm Jamal, and a talented poet named Chris Wood, directed by a great guy named Chris Fulkins. And as I just released yesterday, and it's gaining a lot of steam on the internet. And it's a social political outcry against the state of America in the looming Trump administration.
We need it right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the topics we were talking about today.
Yes,
it goes right in
Lord.
conjunction with those.
Sure.
Now, how long did it take you to film that?
We shot, now just so you guys know, I mean, the film itself is about 5 minutes and 30 seconds, all in for front end credits, about 5 minutes and 30 seconds, but we shot it all in 6 hours.
Wow.
But it was a lot of pre-production. Basically, when Trump took office, I got infuriated, and I was an activist. I used to march in the streets and so on and so forth. And I directed political documentaries. But I said to myself, I'm like, okay, I have these tools at my fingertips, right? And you know what they say: take your broken heart and turn it into art. Mm-hmm. And I have the platform to reach people and continue to motivate and inspire our base. Yeah. So I sat down with a director who I've worked with before, and we sat over some food, and I was like, we have to do something. I can't not act, because I can't sleep at night if I don't act.
Right.
At which point we said, okay, cool. So I basically wrote the hook. My eyes open wide, I feel blind, you can't see me. I open my mouth and I scream, you can't hear me. Fight for justice, can't trust this, my heart, I stand bleeding. You cut out my tongue and I swear you can't hear me. Mm-hmm. So I wrote that hook and I recorded the MP3 and I said to the director, and then I was like, I gotta call Malcolm. Because me and Malcolm been trying to work together for
I remember
years.
a year ago
we were
when we
talking
were
about
at that brunch and you were talking to Malcolm, you were saying that you guys were having a project.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, time goes by so quick.
Exactly, and we were together when we were talking to Malcolm, and Malcolm is, he's a Grammy Award-winning poet, for the work that he's done.
Yeah.
And so I sent that to Malcolm, and he was just like, yeah, let's run it, let's do it. And so we sort of planned this whole thing, via emails and phone calls and Skypes, and everybody wrote their own verse, and then in conjunction with the hook. And we got together, and then we really meticulously ironed out the language, because we wanted to make sure that the things we were saying, we weren't overlapping topics.
Right.
We were covering as much as we possibly could, while still maintaining our own distinctive poetic voices.
And what's probably one of the most important things you want people to take away from it when they watch it?
I want this piece to one, continue to motivate our base, right? To remind us to not get complacent. Two, to inspire yourself to do something about your own community, not necessarily at the federal level, but do something about what you can do in your own community, and hopefully paint a picture of certain people's reality for people that don't understand that reality. The idea of catching my 5 or my 8-year-old trying to scrub the brown off their face because they're embarrassed because of how they're being spoken to at school, that's reality for a lot of young Americans and a lot of young parents. However, there are Caucasian people that don't understand that reality.
That's true.
That don't understand that kind of pain. And so I want to be able to paint a picture and illustrate to people that yes, there are people in very significant emotional and psychological pain because of the tension and the fear and the racist nature and the hate that's been injected into our community.
Well, I think it's a well done project. I mean, congratulations to you once again, because whenever you bring something to us, you put it down. You know what I mean?
Thanks,
it's like always a great project, and people should definitely go out and support this, especially in the time that we're in right now. It's super important. And once again, everybody can find it on Huffington Post.
Yeah, if you just go online, you can do a search on YouTube for "You Can't Hear Me," Malcolm Jamal Warner, or "You Can't Hear Me," David Bianchi. It'll come up. It's on Huffington Post Black Voices. If you go on the Huffington Post Black Voices Facebook page, I think since yesterday we're probably close to 100,000 views in a matter of a 24-hour cycle. So it's gaining steam. People are sharing it, and it's instigating a lot of discussion. Like I had dinner with my girlfriend last night, and just reading all the comments on how people were responding to it. Some of it was a lot of bigotry going on in there.
Yeah, I bet.
But you know,
I'm sure.
But the fact that conversation is being instigated is that's the seed of consciousness is being planted, and for me the biggest proponent is, look, my nephew is 17 years old, and he called me yesterday and he said, "Unc, I saw your video and it blew me away." And that's also what I want to do, is that I want to remind our youth that we're not trying to insult your intelligence. You guys are smart enough to absorb this content. Let's give you more to be inspired by than champagne bottles and models.
Right. The funny thing is, I was like, definitely share this. I mean, we all do it, but we share photos and we do all this stuff from all this nonsense, but we need to share these type of things more importantly to the messages, because that's what we need right now.
So thank you guys for showcasing it. It's great. It's great.
Thank
We're
you
excited.
for doing it.
Thank you for doing that. It leads us right into some great topics today.
Well, it leads us definitely into the first.
Some topics not so great. Not
they're
all
all
of them.
great. I mean,
Not
that's
all
all
of them.
part topics, you know.
We got a little good news out of this story. So obviously we've heard about the shooting of Jordan Edwards and the death of him, 15-year-old from Box Springs, Texas, leaving a party. So the first report, obviously, that it came out was that the car was being aggressively driving, and that's why the officer had pulled the gun out. Well, so now they're coming out because footage has been released and basically said, well, it shows that the car was just reversing. It wasn't being aggressive or whatnot, and the officer had no real point to pull out his gun, his rifle. So Officer Roy Oliver was just released and fired. And I guess he has 14 days to attest it or appeal it. So we'll see if he does do something like that. But I mean, I'm happy that the department came out and made this move so quickly. And the family put a statement out basically asking, please no violence towards anybody at the department, and then also please respect us and just kind of let us chill and refocus right now. But they're very thankful for all the love that they've been getting. So.
Well, what I appreciate about the story actually is the fact that the police chief, he came out and had the balls. I'll say had the balls to come out and say what the version of the truth really was with this story, because there are different things that were said between the police officer and the witnesses and people involved. And the police chief came out and said, this. He rebutted what was said by the officer and said, listen, this is the truth. And now we're finding out the history of the police officer having anger management issues and things like that. So, I have to give it to the police chief for actually coming out and saying what he said in the press conference. So,
yeah, I mean,
it doesn't help. We still have a loss of a life, but in these situations, at least it's not what we've seen before.
It's not like some of the others where people get away with murder, literally.
Yeah, literally.
And kudos to the family for for taking that position publicly.
I don't think I could have, honestly.
Not this quickly.
And so quick.
One can only imagine the amount of pain that they're suffering, but to really ask the upset communities across the country to take responsibility and just say, look, let's get through this, as opposed to making it worse. Because historically we've proven that we know how to make it worse.
Yeah.
So good for them.
On another note, someone who's trying to make things maybe a little better is Beyonce, because she is releasing the How to Make Lemonade box album. And so basically this thing costs $300 though. So she's releasing this as I knew Courtney was going to just
So I just see all smile over there.
You might not go on. It might not be for what you think it is.
Okay, I think this is psycho. Like, first of all, $300, Beyonce. So basically what you're getting with this is a 600-page coffee book of behind the scenes, some audio and visual downloads. You're going to basically get the album as 4 different CDs. It'll be side A, side B with the same songs. You'll get some poetry from Warson Shire, and then the forward is by the author of Making Malcolm, Eric Dyson. So yeah, I guess it's really heavy, and $300, and people are Twitter's joking around talking about Beyonce's state coming out trying to take everyone's tax returns. Because this is when the concert
That's
came.
exactly what I thought as soon as, and I was like,
That's
can I really
hilarious.
come for you for being a marketing genius?
I mean,
because
if people are gonna
it's
pay for
tax
it.
time, people getting their checks back, and it's the anniversary of the lemonade, and just last week we announced she was doing the scholarship program.
Right.
So can I really be mad? Because she is giving back, but then I'm like, girl, you gonna charge these kids who are obsessed with you, gonna spend their little $300 to
they're
buy this
going
box to get the same old stuff. But it's a beautiful coffee table book from what I've
it is
seen.
really
The clips,
cute,
it's
I mean.
a very beautiful
As
book.
it should be for $300.
I mean,
Hey,
but
what
It
am
better-
I
it better
learning from
never
this
tarnish
book?
for $300.
For
It
$300,
better,
you can
like-
take a class for $300.
Exactly.
Right.
well, you're taking a class.
But you go to Amoeba Music and you see all these great collectibles, vinyl collectibles.
True.
I mean, there are people out there that take that really seriously.
yeah.
No, that's
Like
true.
I remember the Madonna sex book. I just aged myself.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that
was
was not a
huge.
cheap book at the
That
time.
was
But it's a beautiful
Beautiful
book.
book,
It's a beautiful
yeah.
text. And there are ubiquitous things that you could only get there. Now, it's $300. Don't come easy for most folks.
That's
Right.
true.
But obviously it's geared towards a certain collar of people.
Yeah.
But don't worry, she is releasing the album on its own, so you guys can get that, I'm sure, at Target or wherever anything's sold for $9.99.
What if you just poured a lemonade in my hand?
You know what I'm saying?
I can go pick some.
You
lemons
can
from a
wiki
tree.
how to make your own lemonade.
Right. Clearly.
But you can't make Beyonce's lemonade.
No, you
No, you
cannot.
cannot.
You need the $300 book for that.
Right.
Are you gonna get it, Courtney?
And a couple of ex-members and toss them on.
She said, hell no.
No. I do not consider myself. I love Beyonce. Don't get me wrong. We went to the show. It was great. Like, I love Beyonce, but you will not almost ever catch me being that much of a fan about anything. I just feel like there's better ways to spend money. But I don't fault anybody that does.
If you got that money.
If you have it and that's what you want to spend it on, girl, do it. Go
Or if you don't have it and that's what you want to spend it on.
If you don't have it and that's what you want to spend it on, please rethink your
rethink your
situation. Because
I just
we
feel,
know who
I
you
just-
voted for.
I just felt discriminated against. She said, "Girl, go do it." Let me put my little Beyonce shoes on. I just really felt discriminated against.
We gonna walk in David's house. He gonna have the Beyonce
You got
box.
the book right on the counter. Right on the counter.
pre-ordered it, honey.
You can only get it pre-ordered. So
I mean, I definitely want to see it in real life.
I would like to see
Yeah.
it, yeah, because I think the imagery in Lemonade
We'll go to
was
David's
amazing,
house
and I
and
would
look
love
at it,
to.
'cause it's gonna be on this coffee table.
We'll have a visit.
now we're expecting.
And
Right,
we
now we
expect
got-
some
now we need
lemonade there
results.
too.
Right.
Some lemonade and some sweet tea.
Exactly. All right.
I can't.
All
Well, that's all
right.
I got for y'all.
That's all.
Although maybe you don't want to make some lemonade and maybe you're hungry instead, so you guys should also check out Blue Apron. I know we guys talk to you guys about them every week, but they're a subscription service. Basically, if you're living at home and you want to spice some things up, literally, you guys can order Blue Apron. They'll deliver food to your house, prepackaged with directions on how to cook everything.
Beautiful recipe.
And I mean, honestly, under an hour's
Yes.
time to make really intricate. It's like Rachel Ray is coming in your house.
I had
teaching
some.
how-
They gave. I'm telling y'all, I've been eating collard greens since I was born. Okay, they had me making collard greens in a way I would have been like, oh no,
And they
I'm
were
not gonna
good?
do that. And they were delicious. And I had some seared Cajun catfish.
Did you see that? They were
Yeah, she threw the hair back on that. Yeah.
After the Beyonce conversation.
Right, she did. I had the cauliflower casserole, and it was really good. I've had several things. There were some pasta dishes, and there was like a chicken breast recipe that
You
I
do
had.
seafood, right? No,
I
you
don't eat seafood.
Oh, he
Did
doesn't
you have
eat
the coconut shrimp one?
I didn't.
That was really
I don't
good.
really do coconut, so me and coconut shrimp wouldn't work. But I had a delicious burger. and some spicy rice and something.
And I
forget
love
what
how
the third one was.
packaging it comes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say,
such cute
it
packaging,
is.
like, and
Yes.
how it keeps it cold and fresh. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well, and they
crazy.
label everything. You know, I always say it's like cooking for dummies when it
Yep.
comes to
It
meat.
is.
You know what I mean?
So
I'm
is
not
it
calling y'all
is it
dummies. I'm calling
subscription
myself
based? You
dummies.
pay like a certain
Yeah.
amount a month?
But here's the best part. So if you go on now to blueapron.com/week, you guys are going to get 3 of your first meals for free shipping, all delivered to your house, and you guys get
And
to
they
pick
drop it
the
at
food.
Big
front
box
door.
with
Yeah.
ice.
You get to pick the food, all that, whatever you like, whatever. If you're allergic to something, you can put that in there. Just go
Wow.
to blueapron.com/week. That's a special for y'all, so make sure you take
Check it
advantage
out.
of it.
Boom.
Show.
Boom! Especially if you're gonna be buying Beyonce lemonade, you're gonna have to save some money up. So there you go, 3 free
Go
meals.
ahead, get your 3 free meals.
That's right. All right, Courtney.
Okay, so we have good news this week.
Finally.
We were waiting. So I don't know how many of you guys know, but Hollywood was facing some potential disaster because the Writers Guild of America was about to be like, deuces, we ain't working, we going on strike as of Tuesday. They've been in negotiations with studios for weeks trying to come to a new deal, and it was not working. The members of the WGA had voted, and they were going to strike as of Tuesday morning. We were concerned that we were going to wake up to picket lines first thing Tuesday morning, but negotiators from both sides stayed in the dungeon fighting for what they wanted on each side well past the midnight deadline, even though as of midnight they were supposed to give up on Monday and be like, all right, we're going on strike. But they stuck with it, and they were able to come to an agreement. So there will be no strike. The last strike we had was with the writers was back in 2007,
And that
and
was
it was
rough.
disastrous.
I mean,
and it went on, I think, for like 18 months.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult.
It changed a lot of people's lives.
Changed a lot of
the strike,
lives.
the original strike itself was about 100 and something days,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the concussion of
Of
that
all
was
of that
about
just
18 months.
continued,
It was
and
almost 2
yeah,
years, yeah.
so and it was tough to come back from, what have you, and obviously it affects a lot of people. And in the end, like, we think Hollywood and everybody's fabulous and doing all this work and making money, but people are working people in Hollywood. Like,
Yeah.
they need to be able to go to work to make the money that they make and to take care of their families. So it's fantastic that they came to an agreement. Studios did make some serious concessions that the WGA was really sort of pushing for. They were really pushing for increased contributions to the health plans from the studios, which, who knows, we might not have any
Right.
as of tomorrow anyway, so whatever.
Just make sure you don't have any pre-existing conditions. You're cool.
I mean,
Yeah,
make
you're
sure you
good.
just don't exist, and then you don't have a because apparently, like, everything is a but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, they also changed, a big thing was redefining what a short order TV series was to actually increase pay for writers, so that when they're, like, usually working only a week on a show, but if it takes a show 2.4 weeks or more to produce, they actually get paid more for it. And they actually have job protections now for writers that need to go on family leave to do other things, and that their position on that show is protected in a better way. And they felt like they had, like, room to really negotiate, because the studios have been reporting significantly higher profits over the last couple years. And the biggest example they gave is that Les Moonves over at CBS, who's running things, just got a pay increase, and he's now making $69.4 million.
Nice.
So all them writers working hard and all these actors working hard, like, the shows and the wonderfulness is paying off in TV and film, and they wanted to see a little bit more of that given back to the writers. So they got some concessions on both sides and came to an agreement. So no strike, guys.
Well, I'm glad.
Congratulations, and very happy for
Because even since 2007, look how many things have developed. Like, Netflix, the way it's
Mm-hmm.
booming now. Hulu and all those things. Even though they were there then, but now just the level of the programming that's on there, how that would affect everything.
For sure.
Yeah, and for anybody that works in Hollywood, I mean, you obviously know better than most people at this table here, is that, like, the expectation, whether you're an actor or whether you're a writer, cinematographer, director, is that when you're there, you're working.
Yeah.
So for people out there that don't understand, like, short order sort of content, so you're looking at, like, a Netflix series that's like 6 episodes versus a network show that's like 13 episodes, right? So it'll take a certain amount of time to shoot 13 episodes. But you're talking about 6-episode run that are maybe an hour 20-minute episodes. Yeah. So these writers are working just as hard as they would on 13 episodes, but they're getting paid for 6.
For 6, exactly.
They're also looking for transparency with these new networks, because it's different when you're dealing with a network show, because the studios provide the content for the cable network. So there's tracking on when things are played and how they're played, so that there's a good systematic algorithm in place for residuals.
Yeah.
Yes.
how do you do that in the Netflix space, in the Hulu space, in the Amazon space, and hope that there's absolute transparency? Because you could watch the same show 5 times in one day, and then your little brother watched it 4 times the same day, and then you watch it, and then how do we know if I'm getting paid as a writer? Because residuals, as artists, we survive on residuals.
Exactly. So we're getting there, and they're trying to catch up with technology and how things are changing. So nonetheless, I'm just glad there isn't a strike. And this is a shallow part of me, because I did not want to go through the summer with reruns of stuff I didn't want to see. Because I'm so glad nowadays that we have like new series and good stuff to watch during the summer. Because y'all remember back in the day, like you would have to watch like nothing during the summer. Because
you were watching the stuff you already watched.
Yeah, the season finales were all in May, and you were just done until September. There was nothing to watch on TV. But I guess that's when we were young and could play outside, and it didn't matter. Moving on. So playing outside, Ben Carson. Oh, Jesus. Okay, we're gonna talk serious. Okay, so,
Such an appropriate picture too that you chose, Jesse. I must admit.
Ben Carson. Okay, so Ben Carson, who's our HUD secretary. Housing and Urban Development. He's, jumped right into his duties, and he's been touring housing facilities around the country, and he spent quite a bit of time over the last week or so in Ohio. And he's toured various low-income facilities, such as like veterans housing and different housing projects in Cincinnati and in, I think, Canton, or a few different cities. And basically, he was touring all these facilities, and in one of the facilities, he made a quote that in an interview, he said basically he wants to make sure that we are not, that this is a comfortable setting. He said about the space that he was looking at, this is a comfortable setting that would make somebody want to stay. And I'll just stay here and they'll take care of me. And he's saying that, like, I don't want that to be the attitude of poor people and people that need help with housing. Like, I don't want it to be so nice and so comfortable that they want to stay there. I want them to, like, want to move on and move out and do other things and pull themselves up basically by their bootstraps. And he also was in a place, it's a housing for like recovering addicts and things like that to sort of get back on their feet. And the director at this housing facility was speaking to Ben Carson, and Ben Carson specifically said to him, he asked, like, hey, so do you have to be clean to get placement in this housing? And the director was like, no. And that goes against basically what he got upset. The director got upset because he was saying that sort of theory that you need to be clean to be able to get into the housing was something that shifted many years ago, because they were like, getting into the housing is actually what helps people get on their feet so that they can get clean and stay clean and move forward. And he was sort of upset that Ben Carson was sort of taking it back to what it was before, and the idea that he would even ask that question was an issue. But then there are other people that felt really excited that he is actually touring and looking like he's actually researching these facilities and like going in to like really see what's going on so that he has a clear understanding of it, being that he has not worked in this area in any capacity whatsoever. There is also conversation and concern because there is a proposed budget cut of 13% to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so he was sort of asked a few different questions like, what does that mean? Because there's like elderly people that get vouchers for certain housing so that because they've been priced out of regular housing in their cities. And does that mean the vouchers are going to get cut? Does that mean that the Meals on Wheels things are going to be cut? And he was basically, Ben Carson's response to the 13% and the budget cuts and the idea that like Meals on Wheels is unnecessary. He said that he felt like the White House was just saying that what we're doing isn't working, not necessarily that we're going to get rid of it, but we're going to get rid of what's not working. So his goal is to focus energy on, helping people get on their feet themselves so that the government is not, responsible for all these people when they can actually take care of themselves.
I mean, there's an element to that I agree with. Yeah. I mean, honestly, obviously I want people to be able to be assisted when they need to be assisted, but it comes to a point where if you are able to work once you get to a certain point, that you should be able to work, that you should work, and not just use tax dollars.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is I do like the fact that he is, putting himself out there, touring, going around and seeing it. I hope that he's also having conversations with people who actually work in this for years and every day, and asking them how can we make things better versus him just coming into this and being like, I don't want people too comfortable. I do appreciate him going out there. I wish I could like see the video of him talking about this too, because
It would be a very long video.
Because it would go.
because the thing about addiction and things like that is like sometimes putting somebody in a
That is how he talks, straight up.
I got to go, bro. I got something.
Like, I got some things to do
It's
tomorrow.
like my brain shut off like 5 minutes ago.
Hey, man, y'all got some good rock around here.
so you wouldn't get no housing if you talk
Oh,
about
you will not be getting housing. in
Wait,
that
sorry,
case.
Jesse, you got to finish your point though. Yeah.
But I mean, I think addiction. What he said about addiction. I mean, I don't know. Like, I do think that there is an element where there are people who you put in housing and it is a comfortable place for them. And addiction is something hard. So it is something that maybe not that if you're clean you get to go into housing, but if you're not clean you have to see us. You know what I mean? You have to be put into a program. Like you have to be held accountable for certain things. And I feel like our government doesn't hold certain people accountable. You know, it's so easy to go down to these offices and just kind of put a name down and walk out with money and things like that. Like that's crazy to me. So I think it's just more of a lockdown on, you know, the actual program.
Yeah, and you know, I echo your position when it comes to addiction, especially when it comes to really hard drugs. You're dealing with crystal, you're dealing with crack cocaine, or you're dealing with heroin. You know, the opiate problem in America is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And the question of whether you need to be clean to get into housing, I think, is really putting the cart ahead of the horse. Because when you are perpetually in the throes of that sort of addiction, if you are not brought into some sort of place where you feel safe enough to trust the people around you enough to give up what has been your physiological identity, right? Your drug of choice. You need to feel safe enough to be able to even give that up and start kicking.
Yeah.
Because kicking is no joke, you know, for people that are heroin addicts or crack cocaine addicts. So it's unfortunate that he did ask that question because he's clearly not informed.
Yeah.
But maybe that's how he's getting informed, so I'm going to be positive and think positive. But I will say this one thing, and I want to sort of caution the space, because as much as I look like, that's kind of logical, that kind of makes sense, it's very easy to look at someone that's down on their whatever and has gotten themselves into a difficult situation and be like, well, you can handle that, you can fix that, you can get it, and we're quick to cut without, I think cut is not always the way. I think restructuring and re-understanding what we're trying to do and what our goals are and that kind of thing is much more effective than just saying, we don't need this and we don't need that. Because it's like, we have more than enough food in this country to feed every single person. Nobody should be hungry, yet somehow we don't do it. So some of like, so it's easy to be like, well, we don't need to spend any more government money doing this, and we need to cut this off, and we need, because that's the easy way people can just, that are not in that position, can look at it and be like, that's not going to work, because they're not living that. So I just hope that in your research, Mr. Ben Carson, and with the work of the people around you, that you actually really assess changes that can be made that are actually going to be more effective and not just flip us back to like 1982 and then we'll end up in 15 years in the exact same position that we're in now, trying to switch it again. Like, we need to figure out something that works, because there's enough resources in this country that people should not have to be hungry or homeless.
That's true.
Period.
Honestly, the amount of food that gets thrown away is ridiculous.
Yeah, and there's so much red tape. You know, I was at a Gelson's, just this random quick store. I was at a Gelson's, and you know they were throwing out the daily fresh soups that they make on the day, and they were throwing them out. And I spent a lot of time working in food and bev throughout the course of my life, and so I understand some of the rules of the health department. Yeah. And a friend of mine I was with says, why are they giving that to the homeless people? Because it's a liability.
It's a liability.
Yeah. Because if Gelson's gives away food to a homeless person and it makes them sick,
right? Then they can
be sued.
They can be sued.
They're held accountable. And there's a liability there.
It's tragic.
So there's so much red tape.
There's a lot of red tape. Well, it's like I was volunteering one time for the homeless shelter, and I was talking to a gentleman who was saying he couldn't find a job, and he was saying how he was getting criticized by a lot of people because he couldn't find a job. And he said people would say, why don't you apply to McDonald's? Why don't you go to a fast food restaurant? And he's like, I can't apply anywhere that will accept me without an address.
Without an address.
And you know, when you put it in that perspective, it's always easy to think like, well, why don't you do this, or why don't you do that?
And then even now, like, I mean, we got to be real. Like, yeah, I could apply at McDonald's, and yeah, I could probably work there. But can I actually afford to live based on working at McDonald's? Probably not.
Probably not.
Not in where we're at right now in this country. So that's why I say, like, we really have to be mindful and thoughtful about how we're doing stuff, and not just about cutting. And believe me, I would love less taxes, and I do think they are squandering money in all kinds of ways that they don't need to. But I think we are not thoughtful enough about how to shift things around and try to actually achieve some goals that are going to actually be achievable.
Especially when
and
people are making
doable.
$69 million.
69 million. You know.
It's sort of heartbreaking.
You can buy a lot of lemonade with that.
You know,
can buy a
a lot of Beyonce's
buy
box
the books,
sets.
honey. You
You can buy
have-
Beyonce for that,
can
man.
You know, they went to the tour.
You can buy Beyonce, Jay-Z, Baby Blue, everybody up in your house with that one.
For $69 million, you might just get Blue.
You might just get Blue, maybe. Yeah, that's true. Or maybe the twins.
You get Jay-Z's
You might get the
nose.
Blue and the Twins.
You Blue and the twins. That's it.
Blue and
Well,
the
I don't know.
Twins.
I think Muammar Gaddafi had her perform once, so I mean, you could definitely get her to come in and play.
Dang.
There's a difference between
Money will get you
Money
anywhere.
gets you anywhere.
It's
All
true,
right.
it is true.
Is that all you have for us today, Courtney Stewart?
That is all.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to our EUR Web Story Spotlight of the Week.
EUR web story.
Josh, do that in 5 minutes. Finish. Do that again, Josh. I still love it when I hear it. Give me that beat.
EUR web
Well,
story.
it should be the GOP right now.
Well, with the whole Star Wars thing today, this perfect music
I
for it,
know.
right?
What happened
Well,
with
shoot,
Star
it
Wars?
feel like we living in Star Wars. I'm gonna have to get a saber and stab somebody.
Okay.
Right.
Healthcare.
Well, somebody who was making the headlines this week, excuse me, I'm a little bit nasally after this cold I had.
You
Jimmy,
still got it with your hands just flailing all over.
I don't have the cold anymore.
Sorry.
I haven't had the cold in a week. It's just the nasally part that I
David's the
got.
best over here.
You're not gonna get sick, cause I ain't even sick, so you're not gonna get sick. All right, but Jimmy Kimmel, he was. I don't know if you guys saw his show this week. Actually, there wasn't a dry in the house after he gave a 13-minute monologue about his son who was born on April 21st, and his son was born with some difficulties. And basically, Jimmy revealed how his son had a serious heart condition and had to undergo an emergency surgery, and it was really touch and go there for him. And what came out of this speech, after this emotional speech, I mean, Jimmy was crying and just, literally just really expressed his love and motivation towards a better health policy system that's in the United States. Well, I'll show you a little clip actually so we can get an idea of what Jimmy particularly said about this.
Proposed a $6 billion cut in funding to the National Institute of Health. And thank God our congressman made a deal last night to not go along with that. They actually increased funding by $2 billion, and I applaud them for doing that. Because more than 40% of the people who would have been affected by those cuts to the National Institute of Health are children, and it would have a major impact on a lot of great places, including Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, which is so unbelievably sad to me. We were brought up to believe that we live in the greatest country in the world, but until a few years ago, millions and millions of us had no access to health insurance at all. Before 2014, if you were born with congenital heart disease like my son was, there was a good chance you'd never be able to get health insurance because you had a pre-existing condition. You were born with a pre-existing condition, and if your parents didn't have medical insurance, you might not live long enough to even get denied because of a pre-existing condition. If your baby is going to die, and it doesn't have to, it shouldn't matter how much money you make. I think that's something that, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or something else, we all agree on that, right? I mean, we do.
So that's just a clip. You can find the full monologue online, but you can see he was even getting choked up there at the end of that monologue. And, a lot of people have responded to that because we obviously know Jimmy Kimmel, late night talk show or TV host, and, we usually see him not make such a political stance about certain issues, and for him to be so close to home with it and then to deliver that, a lot of responses have come out of that. He's gotten a lot of praise for this. One of the people who did praise him was former President Obama, who actually tweeted about this, and this is what he said in his tweet. "Well said, Jimmy. That's exactly why we fought so hard for the ACA and why we need to protect it for kids like Billy," which is Jimmy's son, and congratulations. Now, the White House came back with a statement as well. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer reacted to Jimmy Kimmel's monologue as well. He said, "We've got a healthcare system that's not doing what it's supposed to." Spicer said in response to a question about Kimmel's comments, because a reporter had asked him during a press junket, he said, "It's failing, it's costing too much money, and what the president is trying to do by working with these members of Congress is to make sure we have the strongest possible healthcare system that covers Americans, that gives them the care that they need, that allows them to go see a doctor, that covers pre-existing conditions, and does so many things that's out of the range and unaffordable for most Americans." What do you guys think about that response in conjunction with what was going on.
I don't believe anything that Spicy says.
He is
I don't
so
believe anything that Trumpy says.
Spicy.
Look, this is a list.
Snow White in the 70s.
Spicy and Trumpy. This is a list of things, pre-existing conditions that are not covered under Trump Care. They're in alphabetical order, and I can't even count how many there are. So, AIDS, addiction, acid reflux, anxiety, blood clot, breast cancer, bulimia, colon cancer, colon polyps, depression, diabetes, Down syndrome, epilepsy, gout, heart disease, heart murmurs, kidney stones, leukemia, lung cancer, lymphoma, pacemaker, osteoporosis, paralysis, seizures, skin cancer, sleep apnea, and it goes on and on and on.
I mean, that's like.
This is what people have.
People get. That's why you need
Anxiety,
Exactly.
depression,
Yeah,
what?
it's the most unsettling thing. Like, obviously, it passed today.
Yeah.
For those that y'all don't know, it
Oh,
passed
it's up
by
to the Senate
3
now.
votes, 3 or 4 votes.
3 or 4, yeah.
And we knew it was coming, but I was disgusted because they did their press conference afterwards,
Yeah.
and Trump literally said, "Oh my God, I just said his name, Cheetos." Anyway, he literally said, "We've been working on this for 8 weeks. It took Obama 2 years, and it
years.
took Hilary Clinton all that time, and she didn't get anything done. And we did this in like 8 weeks." And all I could think, because they followed up with, I was driving, so I couldn't write down the name of who they were speaking to. But I think it was one of the representatives, and they were talking about how there was not enough due diligence done to really understand who's affected, how many people are going to be affected, and what those effects actually are going to look like financially completely. They have a general sort of picture idea, whatever, but they did not study it. It's been 8 weeks. Like, they didn't study it and really understand, like, what a shift this is going to be. And like I said, I posted today, I was like, I don't know all the answers, and I don't have whatever, but what I do know is that healthcare cannot be successful, from what I've seen and what I understand of economics, as a capitalistic venture. Because the point of capitalism is to make a profit. And health insurance and profit don't work hand in hand if you're actually trying to do what health insurance is supposed to do. It's just that it doesn't follow the standards of basic economics. And the fact that we still want to pretend like, oh, you just need to regulate the healthcare companies. But no, because in the end, the healthcare companies are seeking profit, not seeking healing or protection for people.
That's not their goal. Right.
That's not their goal. And we can't fault them because that's the
It's a
system we
business,
have
and
set up.
that's what's-
It's a business meant to make money, and therefore they have to do what it takes to make money. It doesn't help them to help sick people, because sick people cost them money. So the most basic principles of economics tell you that it's not going to work. Right. So I just don't understand for the life of me why, as a country, we are still sitting on this, they'll figure it out, like the free market. No, the free market doesn't work. We've seen it. It does not work because it doesn't make basic sense. So I'm appalled on so many levels by all of it, and I can't. It's upsetting, and I can speak about it because I'm definitely directly affected, because I do not have an employer's insurance. I buy my own insurance on the free market as an individual. I don't have enough hours in SAG to even get the union group plan. So I bought my own thing. I was one of the people that couldn't go to my doctor anymore under Obamacare. I was one of those people that my plan increased by like 40% or something starting this year. Like, I know what that's like. And did it feel good? No. Did I think it was all perfect? Absolutely not. Did it need fixing? Absolutely. But to rip it away and leave people hanging out that have asthma, my godson has a freaking autism, and that's going to become an issue in the future. Like, it's absurd, and it's disgusting that we made it, that they think that is something to celebrate at this point in time. I'm done.
Yeah, I remember.
Mic dropped, actually.
We are conceivably one of the most powerful nations on the planet.
Yes.
One of the richest, not one of the greatest, but one of the richest.
Yes.
I'm from Brazil. I'm a Brazilian. I have a Brazilian passport. I went to Brazil with my friend Greg, an American citizen. We were there for Carnival. He took it upon himself to climb some rocks. All right, bad idea. He fractured 2 toes, complete breaks. During the peak of Carnival, went to an emergency room. He got x-rays, saw a surgeon, saw 2 doctors. In the peak of Carnival, we were in and out of the emergency room in a matter of 3 hours. He was bandaged, cast, and was given instructions on what to do. And he got on a plane and went back and took care of it. It didn't cost him a penny in Brazil. Didn't cost him a penny.
It's like going.
I have a picture of the X-ray in my phone. And why can't we figure that out in the United States of America?
That's
I don't
great.
get it.
No, I mean, they can figure it out.
We were
they
stunned.
ain't doing it.
Well, here's the thing.
That's the thing. That's what
They
also
know.
is bothersome. They can figure it out. They don't want to because it is not financially
That's
viable
why.
and positive for the people that it is already for.
Yeah, I mean, and what's sad about it too is like us who do pay for insurance, and an employer does not pay for it. There are so many things now that I can't even do. And if it's not my network or if it's not this or that, I can't even go to the doctor and see these certain things. You know, so it's like, what's the point? Like, why are we paying all these high rates at that too? You know.
And they're like, oh, it'll drop rates. Yes, it's going to drop rates for people that are healthy and fine and have had nothing happen to them.
Yeah, if you never go to the doctor.
If you don't go have to, and that's, 18 to 25 years old for the most part. Like, great, congratulations, that's who you've helped out. Like, now I might go blind because I can't go to my, and that's not a joke. Like, I have a pre-existing condition. I was 21 and almost lost my eyesight, had surgery. That's a pre-existing condition now. So if I need to have surgery again, which is very likely based on what happened to me, I can't get insurance for it. Like, it makes no sense.
Once again, we got to go to Canada.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I just don't
We just
understand.
or Brazil apparently, which I ain't
Brazil,
mad
yeah.
at.
Hey, it's
During
got-
peak carnival hours.
Right.
It's shameful.
I don't know.
It's
I mean,
embarrassing.
It is.
And the thing is, I just don't even know how it's gonna reconstruct itself right now.
I don't either.
I don't even have any hope for it.
Literally, they didn't like come and be like, you know what, I know it sounds rough, but like this pre-existing condition thing, which seemed to be something that everybody was on the same side of, like we need to protect that. And they didn't come and say, yes, we have a great plan. This is what it is for those people. They literally said, we gonna basically corral them all in a pool and let it get figured out some kind of way. So basically what you're saying is you're doing exactly what already existed, which is what we were trying to get rid of to begin with. And you haven't said exactly how you're going to fix it so those people don't get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
You've said nothing.
Scary. It's very scary.
Legislature stamped by Mr. Executive Order.
Yes.
There you go. Y'all.
There we go.
And it's
vote in
going to get worse
2018.
before it gets better. That's what
Vote in
Well, it's already gotten
2018.
worse.
Any radical change, it gets worse before it gets better.
Vote in 2018.
Well, we were in hopes it was going to get better, so it had gotten better for a second, and then it's like now we have 4 more years of this, and then the after effects of that.
Yep. A concussion, like you
My
said.
fellow Americans. You miss me yet?
Oh, and they were so
Honestly, at this
smug and
point-
gross. Paul Ryan and Cheetos, and they were all just up on stage. Ugh.
Take away their insurance. You know what I'm saying?
Wasn't there? I'm not going to speak on that because I'm not sure about the facts. I'll bring that up later. Because there was something about a little caveat that wouldn't affect Congress's insurance, and I didn't get to read the article on it.
They're exempt
so
from it.
I don't know.
Oh, they're exempt,
from
from
it.
it.
They're exempt from it.
Well, see, I didn't read the whole article, so I didn't want to say that outright, but I was
Yeah.
pretty sure that's what it was.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, someone else who has been making her rounds this week is Hilary Clinton, and she's been getting a little bit of slack about some of the things that she said. She was sitting down with CNN at the Women for Women International event in New York, and she basically was saying why she revealed why she did not win the presidential election. Here's a clip of it.
It wasn't a perfect campaign. There is no such thing. But I was on the way to winning until the combination of Jim Comey's letter on October 28th and Russian WikiLeaks raised doubts in the minds of people who were inclined to vote for me but got scared off. And the evidence for that intervening event is, I think, compelling, persuasive, and so we overcame a lot in the campaign. We overcame an enormous barrage of negativity, of false equivalency, and so much else. But as Nate Silver, who doesn't work for me, he's an independent analyst, but one considered to be very reliable, has concluded, if the election had been on October 27th, I'd be your president. And it wasn't. It was on October 28th, and there was just a lot of funny business going on around that. And ask yourself this, within an hour or two of the Hollywood Access tape being made public, the Russian theft of John Podesta's emails hit WikiLeaks. What a coincidence. So, you just can't make this stuff up. So, did we make mistakes? Of course we did. Did I make mistakes? Oh my gosh, yes, you'll read my confession and my request for absolution. But the reason why I believe we lost were the intervening events in the last 10 days. And I think you can see I was leading in the early vote. I had a very strong, and not just our polling and data analysis, but a very strong assessment going on across the country about where I was in terms of, the necessary both votes and electoral votes.
So that's a clip of her speaking, and this has caused a little bit of a debate back and forth with people, because some people say that she still didn't take responsibility for why she officially lost, and then some people are saying
too, because the title says that, and it's like, y'all are really kind of drawing that conclusion.
Well, yeah, and because for example, like some people said she didn't do her proper groundwork in states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which could have helped her take on the presidency. And then some people were saying also that because of, her vice president choice and her view on the foreign policy, which many people thought was horrible, that all also things where she didn't take kind of like ownership for that, especially when she was speaking to this audience at the event in New York. What do you guys think about what she said, and just in general about the back and forth with her not winning the election?
I mean, I understand why people were sort of irritated, because when I watched, I think I saw most of the interview. I don't want to assume it was the whole interview, but she clearly, like, out the gate said Russia and
first thing
Comey.
she said, yeah.
Like, and it wasn't, there wasn't immediate ownership, so I understand why that sort of bothers people, but at the same time, I sort of agree with her, so I'm not that taken aback by it, but I just think it would have been a better look had she said initially, obviously I have responsibility in it, because as a candidate, she wasn't soaring past Trump. Like, no. She was doing well, and she was working out, but believe me,
won 3 more million votes than Trump did overall.
Of the popular vote, yes, but you're a politician and you're well seasoned, and the popular vote doesn't win you the election.
True.
So your people and you know the work that you needed to do to get the Electoral College, and you weren't necessarily doing enough of that work in those places, and that's really why you lost the election. So you won technically, you just negated your own argument, because you won the hearts and minds of people, because you won the popular vote. So yes, the Comey letter was a problem, and you wish more people had voted for you because of it and all of that, but technically the people voted for you. And
right.
You won that.
You didn't get
You didn't get the Electoral College, so you didn't do the politics of it. So that's what, I get it, like, either way, but, and in the end, Hilary wasn't the least controversial candidate to have run. Like, I personally think she was the most qualified, and that's why she was the most controversial, because she's actually done the most in government of any president that we've ever had.
Absolutely.
So she was open, it was open season on her for everything she's done in her entire career. But I understand why people feel like she should have just owned her own responsibility first. Yeah. And then, yes, we're not ridiculous and stupid. We know all that other stuff came out, and I don't believe it was a coincidence that the WikiLeaks dropped when they did, and that kind of thing.
Not.
Like, it wasn't a coincidence. So, it's fair game, but at the same time, she didn't quite own up to it.
Listen, they all play dirty regardless, you know what I mean? So she's not innocent, but neither is anyone else. So I just feel like, I agree with you. I think that she should, if she had come off from the bat just kind of admitting or owning it a little bit more versus kind of, it felt like it was passing blame. Even though I love her, I think that people would have reacted a little bit differently from that. What about you?
Sure, I think that it's an interesting view at just how fickle American audiences and global audiences alike are and have become. Yeah. And that, you can be a tsunami of motivation, but a small twig of negativity will break that wave, and you will shatter at the sand, and there's nothing left of you. Because nobody is interested in the good things that you're doing. They're only looking for your demise.
It's true.
And with Hillary Clinton, she was exactly what the establishment wanted her to be on the Democratic side, which I think was part of the exhaustion of the American public, because she wasn't doing on the left side of the aisle what Donald Trump was doing on the right side of the aisle, which is being the radical, postured, abrasive, bravado sort of I'm going to win,
was he postured,
which Bernie Sanders was doing for the left side of the aisle. Yeah, he was postured. He was postured in his own way.
Postured at what he was
very
doing.
postured.
Yes.
He didn't know.
Clearly postured.
Very postured. I mean, he came in and said, "I'm doing it my way, and I'm going to fucking steal this. I'm going to steal this war." And she remained very establishment, which I think.
Yeah.
Against Donald Trump, made her a very neutral candidate.
Yes.
America wasn't looking for neutrality, which is why Bernie had what he had, but the establishment didn't want to get behind Bernie, and which is why America leaned towards Trump, because they were tired of the neutral candidate.
It's true.
That's true.
It's true.
And the buck does stop at the candidate.
It does.
It does.
There are variables that are always out of my control. Me as a producer, if I schedule a film and it rains for 4 days, and I suddenly got to book the soundstage for 2 more days, and I go over budget because of the rain, I can't blame God.
Right.
Exactly.
My investors are
blame
looking
God.
at me. I'm the
Right.
producer. The buck
Right.
stops with me.
Yeah, you're right.
So if I got to go back and ask you for another $100,000 to make this movie, it's my fault.
Yeah.
And she's been doing this for so long that it's like, you knew how to attack this, and then to see this type of an interview, it's just kind of like, it sounded a little bitter-esque at the top.
I don't blame her.
No, I mean, I get it. I get it, and I really want to hear that confession. I want to read that book.
I mean, look how long it took her to just be public.
Like, yeah.
I mean,
I'm like, props to you for even being able to sit there and talk about it yet, because I don't think
Amen.
I'd be ready to talk about
It's-
it yet.
I know,
Especially
it's true.
as
It's
a
only
woman.
been-
She's been a woman
Yeah.
working in this business from Jump Street since what, like 1972 or whatever, like busting her butt
She
in
has
an
been.
industry that is not friendly to women any more than
And
anywhere
especially when
else.
she
You know what I'm
started,
saying?
yeah.
And I'm just like, girl, I would have. And you got lost to cheat on.
Yeah.
That is
Out
like
of
the
everybody.
clearest form. That is like the clearest display of ignorance that has ever existed in our freaking culture, and that's what everybody went for.
Yeah.
And I
and day to day, she's got to watch these.
She gotta
these
watch it
horrible
every day.
policy changes, and she's,
Well, she is in the process of writing a book to reflect her 2016 loss, so I'm sure she's gonna give a lot more
That's gonna be a
details.
whole lot of
I may have to
She's
pick
gonna
that
make a
up.
lot of
and
money
be
off
honest
that
with
one.
you. I'm gonna have to pick that up and read it. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Sell your book.
All right, well, that concludes our show today. David, once again, you got your new movie coming out. You can't hear me. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Let me try that
can't
again.
'cause
You
you're
can't
stuck.
hear me because I'm
You can't
basically. You can't hear me, and people can find it on Huffington and
Yeah, Huffington Post and Black Voices Huffington Post. They, like I said, they distribute it. So Facebook, Huffington Post, Black Voices, or you can just go on YouTube. You could just search "You Can't Hear Me," David Bianchi, or "You Can't Hear Me," Malcolm Jamal Warner. It's a really, really powerful piece of work. We really need, our
Excellent.
audience, our Black Hollywood Live audience, to look at it, get inspired by it, share it, to continue to motivate and inspire our base that we have power in our hands, because we need to start instigating change for, as you said, the next election cycle. So let's
Yes.
start now.
It
Let's not
starts
quit.
now.
I think you have a life in politics, man. I'm just
Man, I
You're
got
like Tony
I'm-
Robbins.
I'm too fucking smeared. I can't work in politics.
Well, we've learned.
I
That
can
doesn't matter,
go with
honey.
Tony Robbins potentially when I'm not running for office.
We'll see. You heard it first on Black Hollywood Live when he
That
starts
means he's running for office.
Right. That'd be right.
2018, you versus Kanye.
Exactly. And then personally, where can people find you outside of?
At David Bianchi, Twitter, D Bianchi Sag on Instagram. Just David Bianchi. Bianchi. I'm pretty easy to find. Thank
Okay.
you.
Courtney
You can find me everywhere at Stuart Starlet, crying in my coffee cup.
and Jesse.
Jesse J.
And you can find me at Derrial Christon on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you for joining in this week, and we will see you next time. Peace.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Derrial Christon, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.